And from Columbus, Ohio, I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly is your girl Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech, aka Mr. MacBook FaceTime Cam. I am back on my FaceTime cam because last week I had a bunch of issues. We had them with the Tech Jawn, had the same similar issues with SnobOS. I'm like, screw it. Throwing this stuff all out. I went on Best Buy. I found the Sony VZ1F cam. And I was looking at the reviews and I was looking at all the features, and it says, oh, it shoots in 4K. So I'm like, bet. I feel like at the very least I should be able to have 4K recording, yada, yada, yada. I did digging around, found an open box unit that didn't have all the pieces. I'm like, fine, I've got enough cables and stuff sitting around here. All I need is the camera itself.
Famous last words.
So I get it home, and I was playing with it all of yesterday and all of today, because what I didn't want to do is repeat the same problem to where I come down here thinking it's going to work, turn everything on, and then nothing works, and then I'm scrambling in the beginning of the show trying to get it set. So not all of today, most of this afternoon, I've been down here playing with the camera. And like I was telling Stephanie in the green room, I had four me. I met me, you, and Rob. I had four me's. I had my MacBook camera on one camera. I had my my old not stream cam, this regular camera I was using. I had my MacBook camera, and I had an old Logitech webcam, all of them running up, trying to make sure I get the lighting right, trying to make sure it's in the right perspective and everything set up. So I'm like, all right, I got it. It's working. The Sony, if you don't plug it in a certain way, it only gets 720p. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. But it'll work because it looked pretty good the way I had it set up, because I've been testing it all afternoon,
all day.
So I'm like, all right, I'll just do 720p. I feel like I'm a little bit better. I'm above 720p, but it's fine. I'll do 720p this week. I'll go get the right camera or the right cables. And after Thanksgiving holiday, I'll be rocking and rolling. Come down here 20 minutes ago, turn everything on. Nothing works. So I'm like, I ain't got time to figure it out. So I just scooted. I told everybody in the green room, I've got my desk on them little scoop things that you put your furniture
Coasters.
on top.
Furniture sliders.
Yeah. Sliders.
Furniture coasters.
Furniture coasters. Exactly what they are. Furniture coasters. I got my desk slid out halfway, so I've got the right perspective, and I'm using my MacBook FaceTime cam. So that's why my AKA is Mr. FaceTime camera, because I may just use this going forward and just slide my desk out.
Listen, it works for me. I'm just like, this is what you get, especially considering we are in these little narrow boxes. It don't really
see too much.
You're not buying anything that much. If you got a decent light in front of you, you're not buying a whole lot with a camera.
And that's what it's coming down to.
Now, see, so the rumor has been that the Mac folks is the bougie ones. Not in this case, because I got my cinema camera, my Sony FX30, sitting on behind in front of the camera.
So how do you got that plugged up? You've got it plugged up to power and to your computer?
So it's a regular camera. So I have a that camera has HDMI out, just full HDMI out, because it's a cinema camera. So I'm basically coming directly out of the HDMI into a cam link, which is
a capture card,
and cam link's plugged directly into the PC. And the camera has got its own, I've got power going into the camera directly with another cable.
Yeah, so that's that. If I keep this Sony VZ1F, I'll look at it on the box. ZV1F. If I keep it, I'm gonna have to get a capture card to get the resolution from 720 up.
Is that a mirrorless?
No, nope. Okay. It's a straight, but it's decent, especially like if I'm not using it as a graduated webcam, where you're using it as the vloggers. People on YouTube. Yeah, they doing their vlogging thing. Everybody uses this camera because it shoots great. The image stabilization and all that, but it shoots great up in 4K. It's simple. It's small. The battery life lasts a good hour or two. and then that's all you need. You pop the SD card out, put it in your computer, do what you got to do. And but for streamers that want the high end quality, that's got the lights, that's going to be sitting up there for a long time, like people playing video games, they'll stream for 4, 5, 6 hours.
Easily. Yeah.
This ain't gonna work. This ain't
Well,
gonna
no,
work
what you
unless
would
you
do
go
is just
buy a fake battery. You got to fight the dummy
you
battery
don't
thing.
have
You got
to
to do this.
you don't have to do all that. So you basically have the ZV-1F. I had the original ZV-1. You can plug you can power that thing from USB while you're using it as a webcam, and it should run until it either overheats. You have to put it in the mode where it won't overheat, but it should just run forever.
Now, that's not what now again, I've only had it for a couple days, but I did my little research on YouTube's, and the YouTube people was like, after about an hour, this thing just dies. Even when plugged in, because I've got it plugged in the way they say it. I've got straight USB-C to USB-C. There's no adapters, no dongles. And in the corner of the little viewfinder, it shows a little plug for the battery. I'm like, all right, well, that's cool for us because we're only on here 40 minutes to an hour and a half. But then after that, I don't want to be crossing my fingers
Yeah.
thinking this is going to die on me. So I'm like, you know what? MacBook FaceTime cam it is.
With my ZV-1, so the difference between the one that you have and the one that I had was that I had the original ZV-1. It actually had that Zeiss zoom lens, so it would zoom in and out. But as far as the other innards of the camera, they basically are identical to each other. So I would expect that thing to just run forever when you're powering it. Or like, say, if you want to get all fancy with it, you could go with the actual dummy battery and kind of go from there. But yeah.
And then but with the dummy battery, the door's got to be open, and there's another little adapter you got to buy, and then you got to buy the micro HDMI to get the 4K.
Wow.
I'm like, that's too much.
That sounds like a lot. My camera literally just goes into the side of my computer, and I mean, I got to run it through Ecamm, but yeah, that sounds like a lot.
It isn't if that's the level. It's if you want to look like if you want that real nice camera and the depth of field and all that kind of stuff for whatever you're doing.
I don't
and you're right in the three, like with us, with the 3 view that we have right now, you really can't see it. So you're only 720p right now. But now in StreamYard, which we're using to record this week, we can even go up to 4K local recordings, and I did that I think 2 weeks ago. But the files are just so freaking large. It just doesn't make sense for the type of video that we're doing. So I put it back to HD. But yeah, man, that should work. So I will go back and just question: is there something with that going on with that brand new Mac to where you can't get your video cameras to work? Because they should just be plug and play. You should just be able to plug those things in, right?
It should be plug and play, but when I go in here, and I'm not going to do it, but if I go in here and try to change over, if I could try to change over to this Sony camera, it'll just blink, and then my FaceTime cam stays on. So there's a setting or something, even maybe with this new camera, there's a setting or something that I forgot or missed, but I was like, let me go through the checklist earlier today, and I thought I checked all the boxes, but apparently not. Because as soon as I turned on StreamYard and tried to switch that camera, it was like, nah, we don't like that.
So
psych.
Maybe we'll get it figured out for the new year.
Yeah,
but let's go ahead and jump into some of these tech stories. It's a weird week. This is, for those who are watching in close to real time or who are watching live right now. Of course, this is Thanksgiving week here in the United States. So I don't want to say that it's a slow news week, but I was stretching to try to find some stuff. But this one did pique my interest. It's something that actually came up last week, because I don't know what you guys thought, but I just assumed that more people in the world had access to cell phones, particularly smartphones and wireless internet, than do. So it's only about 57% of the world's population has access to mobile internet. And that number is actually decreasing significantly so. So if you look at some reports that came out from GSMA, they actually said that from 2015 to 2021, there were about 200 million net new wireless internet users every single year. But since 2023, that number has dropped down precipitously to 160 million. So the report goes through the, try to figure out, well, why are these numbers dropping? And some things make sense. Here in the United States, I believe we are 81%. It's 81% of people have smartphones. In Singapore, which is another country that has quite a few people, who are doing this, 93%. China, it's 80. It's 80%. So the problem here is that, just there's so many people who have them, there just aren't enough people who are going to buy them to add to the number. So that makes sense here. But then in places where, internet connectivity is really, really low, like if you were to look at like Bangladesh, Nigeria, and Pakistan, they respectively only have 37, 34, and 24%. So you would think that those countries would actually be growing. But what this report is kind of showing is that, in those countries, everyone who had enough money already understood what the internet was to get internet access or to get a wireless phone. They already knew what it was and they knew the value of it. Therefore, they did it right when they, when the service became available in those areas. The folks who don't have it, have never had it, don't necessarily understand it, don't see a need for it. So there's just a thing of where they either can't afford to get it because it's extremely expensive in a lot of places still, or they just don't see the need for it because they've never saw the need for it, which I thought was kind of interesting. So the worldwide is only 57% of people have mobile internet. And like I said, I thought that number would have been, I didn't think it was going to be 80%, globally, but I thought it was going to be like in the high 60s, low 70s or something like that.
Well, I thought the reason would be different as far as lack of coverage as opposed to people not actually being able to afford it. Mm-hmm. But it looked like, I forget what the stat was. There's only like 4% of the globe that isn't covered. So yeah, data coverage continues to be a challenge, although data suggests this issue is improving relatively quickly. Just 350 million people across the world, or 4% of the global population, still live in areas that are not covered by a mobile broadband network. Now, I would not have guessed that number as far as, like, I would have thought there were way more people. Like, I'm thinking like the Amazon or Antarctica or the Arctic or something like that. Like, somebody in Antarctica might have a cell signal, who knows?
And they do.
If you
they absolutely do
at 4%. Yeah, so it's just like I definitely would have thought the reason and the rationale would have been because there wasn't enough coverage as opposed to people not being able to afford it. But that just shines a spotlight on the the wealth gap in on this planet. It's just a lot of haves and have-nots out there.
So are we attributing it to the cost of data is too expensive for some of these areas? Is that the overall arching idea?
Two ideas. It is extremely expensive. So like in Nigeria, they actually cost as much as it costs here. In the United States, broadband, whether it be mobile or not, is extremely expensive compared to the rest of Earth. So in some of these places, particularly like in Africa, the coverage is just expensive. It's expensive. So that is definitely pricing people out. But one of the things they're inferring is that a lot of people who don't have access. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy. I guess Firefox wasn't the solution.
Yeah, let's hold off.
My internet just went out.
Oh, okay.
It blinked.
I was like, oh boy.
Okay, so
yeah.
So I'll
so you left off as the reason why. The other reason why.
The other reason why is because what this article was saying was that when people first got internet in these places, the ones who absolutely could afford it already knew the value of internet access, so they immediately went out and got it. But there was a whole swath of people who they may not even have electricity in some of in some of their villages and stuff like that. So we haven't had internet access in thousands of years. Why am I going to go spend this extra money to go get it? Even if they could afford it, was just a thing that they just didn't see the benefit of. And that's kind of an issue as well. So it's expensive to get. And then people who don't have it don't necessarily see the use of it. It's kind of like, you and I would not have a problem riding a bus across country if we didn't know trains existed. It's one of those kind of things.
And that's the thing. It's like you don't have, and then if you don't have the mechanism, like I look at EV adoption here in this country. Like, it ain't enough charging stations. Like, it just ain't. You know what I mean? So people aren't. So I think about that idea. When you think about, like, I think there was a student over in Africa that invented this soccer ball that you could kick around and generate electricity with, and they would use that to charge the phone. It's like, if you don't have the mechanism to use the technology anyway, like, why are you rushing out to buy a phone if you know you ain't even gonna be able to charge it? So, I think until that infrastructure gets put into place, we're gonna see this type of trend continue.
Yeah, and I was also going to say maybe there is not necessarily pushback, but there is resistance from how these people normally access the internet. So you think of internet coffee houses, you think of broadband companies who are providing the internet for the homes, the residential broadband, or for the businesses, right? Maybe they are resisting and don't want people to adopt mobile internet because that means less people come into the coffee houses. That means less people are willing to buy home internet when they can get everything done on their phone. I'm thinking maybe there's some sort of pushback that way, but
you would see pushback here in the United States like that. You definitely see pushback on like when you have communities that want to do their own broadband. You will absolutely see the wireless companies here push back on that. I don't know that that's the case. I mean, to a great extent in some of these other places, because broadband is so much easier to put in place when it's wireless in places that don't have it. The United States, one of the reasons we kind of lag, with our internet access is because we have wires that run underground and through the sky for everything. We had the infrastructure for it. So, which is significantly expensive to run all that cable. But everywhere else is like, no, we're just going to shoot a satellite up and then cover this entire city. We're going to, shoot 3 up and we'll cover this entire country. So I think that there may be something to be said for the folks who are in the cities that would have those internet houses where you can go and and log in. But I think that if you're in the city, you probably are already one of the ones who has access to the wireless access. This is probably for folks who are out in the country that don't even see the necessity of internet. So one of the things that, like, in this article is going to is that in order to get these numbers back up, in order to get more people on, it's going to have to be the companies, it's going to have to be the carriers who are going to say, well, if you want to offer people these kind of products that require that they have internet access, you have to give them a reason to think that getting internet access so they can get your products is a worthwhile endeavor. So it's going to be one of those.
Oh, and that's going to be, city and state governments adding the infrastructure to make it make sense. Like, because it just doesn't make sense. So I think it's some internet, ISP, but I think it's more government getting infrastructure built in these rural environments that is gonna make it even make sense.
Right. So interesting, because I said I did know that coverage was significant on Earth. That, like I said, 4% of Earth isn't covered. Only about 350 million people. I didn't realize that only 57% of people had it. I thought that number was significantly higher than what it is. So, Steph, you stuck a story in. I think you put this in Wednesday last week. Was like, hey, I want to talk about this. So it came right up.
I got hyped
last week about the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, aka MIT, is waiving tuition for families who make less than $200,000 a year, and they are waiving it all cost for families who make under $100,000 per year.
Yes, indeed. So starting next fall, they announced that they will be waiving tuition and fees for families under that $200,000 threshold. And I just feel like this is they're getting the money from private donations, alumni donations, and friends and family. The tuition-free financial aid initiative is made possible by generous gifts made by individual alumni and friends, end quote, of the university, according to MIT, because it currently costs $57,986 a year to go to MIT. It's a very, very expensive school, but one of the best schools in the country. This caught my eye for a couple reasons. Number one, this was my dream school. Back when I was looking at schools and deciding where I wanted to go, like MIT was literally at the top of the list. I think Georgia Tech was a close second, but MIT was at the top of the list. I hadn't applied yet, but I had gotten my because you have to be interviewed by an alumni of the school that lives in your area as part of your application process. So I had gotten my interview done, and he felt like, all it looked good. I mean, he obviously couldn't admit me and accept me, but he felt like with all of my records and transcripts and my little awards and everything that I brought to the house to show him, he felt like I had a really good chance of getting in. I just did not have a really good chance of figuring out how to pay for it. And it was I was looking seriously into an Air Force ROTC scholarship because I was like, I can get it, and
then you got to do your little time,
right? And I'd rather do my little time in the Air Force than in any other branch of the military. My 2-year active duty commitment after I graduate, I would rather do it in the Air Force than any other branch. So I was like, well, I mean, if that's the way I got to get done, I guess that's the way I got to get done. But then President Frederick S. Humphreys of the illustrious Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University offered me a full scholarship. So I was like, I got to go with the money, where the money resides. But but cost was the mitigating factor there. And I think about how, my life could have been completely different if I had gone to that school. I mean, maybe I would have flunked out, who knows, you know what I mean? And just, maybe FAMU was the experience that I needed to have. Obviously it was the experience I needed to have because that's where God put me. But, so I appreciate this initiative, for that reason. I mean, to anybody listening, you still got to get in, you know what I mean? So this will not be just some free for all for everybody to start, attacking. However, I am very curious to see what their emission numbers start to look like.
I knew you was gonna go there.
That cost, you knew I was going there and taking y'all with me, taking all y'all with me. I'll be very curious to see what their emission numbers start to look like once you remove cost from the equation, because y'all want to sit here and talk shit about DEI all day long, but we got a lot of people in the hood that are capable of doing this work and just would never have had the opportunity because of the cost. So we about to see something come fall 2025.
So we basically not basically, actually, affirmative action doesn't exist in the college system any longer. And one of the interesting things,
allegedly,
unless you're a legacy, yeah, unless you're a legacy, we'll just leave it at that. But one of the interesting things is that it was Asian students who basically were the ones who brought this case. It doesn't only affect Asian students, but that was the group who actually brought the case. And what has happened since affirmative action is no longer accepted in schools is that Black numbers at these prestigious schools has stayed pretty much the same, if not gone up just a little bit. But Asian American numbers have gone down precipitously. Why is that? Because many of them were getting in for affirmative action and DEI type of reasons. And we say this on this show all the time, and it needs to be said.
Definition of cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Affirmative action, did it help? Does it help African Americans? Does it help Black people? Yes, it does. But we're only 12% of the population. Who does affirmative action help most? The biggest section of folks that you would be, that you would put into a class that you could say is discriminated against. That would be white women. That is who it helps the most. So, but it also helps Asian students, and it also helps, Latins. It helps everybody. It doesn't just help one class of people.
Everybody gets lifted.
Everyone gets, rising. Rising tide of DEI and affirmative action lifted all boats. So, so here's one of the things that's happening. I've heard many people tell this stories like this. Black students had the grades to go to Harvard. They had the grades to go to MIT. They had the grades to go to Cornell and these prestigious schools. but they knew no one who went to those schools. So it was just not in, it wasn't even on their radar. I remember Joanne Reed from from MSNBC. She went to Harvard. She says the only reason she went to Harvard is because someone from Harvard came to her house and talked to her about Harvard. It wasn't a thing where she never thought that she could go. It was just never a thought, because I don't know anybody who goes to Harvard. Why would I go there? I can go somewhere else where I know people. And that is something that a lot, that's not just Black students, but students in general tend to go to schools where they know about the schools. Now, this is back in the 80s. She's a little older, older than us, but, back in the 80s, where, you knew that MIT was a great school, but if you weren't living in Massachusetts, you may not have known exactly what that school was about, coming from the background that she came from. So a lot of what happens is that a lot of times for African Americans, for Black students, they just don't apply to these schools. Well, I'm not trying to put my parents under that kind of financial burden.
And you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
And your point to, like who's taking out student loans for $60,000 a year? Like, honestly, that's insane. Like to willingly and voluntarily take on that kind of debt just to say you went to MIT. Like, as good as the school is, and I, like I said, I knew what type of school it was, and I wanted to go there more than anything else in the world. However, what I was not going to do was take on $60,000 worth of debt a year, just a year, just to go. That's what, times 4. That's that's just tuition. That's not even your living expenses. That's not room and board. That ain't no books.
Personal.
That ain't pizza on Fridays. You know what I mean? Like that. So you're looking at easily $300,000, $350,000 for this education that you'll never be able to pay back, even if you get that quote unquote good job with this degree and everything else. It'll take you decades to pay that money off. So it just didn't make sense.
My oldest child, so it's a personal story. My oldest child was not only accepted to Harvard for grad school, but was offered a full ride scholarship to go to grad school at Harvard, but it only covered tuition. Maryland, which is where she went for grad school, covered tuition, room and board, and she had a teaching assistant position that actually paid her money coming out of her pocket. So it was like, well, yeah, I could go to Harvard, but I got to come out of pocket for at least rent, or I got to go get a regular job and work, to get this rent paid, or at least get to the school and then try to figure out how to get a TA job or something like that. It was a lot of stuff to get figured out. Maryland, before she ever stepped foot on the campus, here's the jobs that any one of these, you select which one you like. All that kind of stuff was just ready for her to go to the University of Maryland. And it's not like living in Maryland where she was at. University of Maryland is in one, I think it's the most affluent African American community in the country, or one. It's the top 3 if it's not number 1 any longer.
Well, the county surrounding.
Yeah. So it's not cheap to live there, but the fact that they were covering all of that went into her decision. So now you're going to have students like her. It's like, oh, wait a minute, my parents don't have to come off of $56,000 a year.
And so that's what I was getting to. The story that you talked about, Stephanie, to where somebody came and wanted you by way of offering you a scholarship. Same thing with your daughter, Robb. Somebody wanted her by offering her a scholarship, right? My thing is, go where you are wanted. Okay. And for the longest, these colleges would purposely price us out of the conversation to where we were like, well, ain't no sense even talking about going to these schools because it is not in the cards for us. Everything about this says we are not welcome. So as a result, we go to HBCUs, we go to smaller schools, yada, 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 so on and so forth. So now maybe this is MIT's way of saying, well, maybe we do kind of want y'all, by offering this tuition, and it includes this and that and the other, to where now it's a conversation, but still I don't go where I'm not wanted, So overall, I think, in addition to banging down the doors and, in spite of all the odds, in addition to that, we should also be propping up some of these schools that want us, because personal story for me, my school at Tennessee State, they're struggling right now. the state of Tennessee is a red state, number one. And the previous presidents, not my president while I was there, but the presidents after that, you can make an argument that they didn't make the best financial decisions, on top of the state owing them millions of dollars.
Yep.
All that adds up right now.
Hundreds of millions.
Billions. But that all adds up to, right now, the state is telling our school right now, you need to lay off people, you need to cut costs in order to get the little funding we getting y'all. So now the school's scrambling to lay off administrators. They're trying to fix the decisions made by the previous president. So all around the world to say, that's my charge, where it's like, all right, I need to do more for the college. Maybe I need to up my funding, me and my wife, spread the word, or whatever the case may be. But that is exactly how this funding is coming to MIT, from people who are generously, according to the story, donating the funds, right? So it's almost like, all right, well, we see the problem, now how do we do to solve it? Do we have our kids fly out to these colleges to where they are offering these scholarships, or do we prop up these schools that were in the past always welcoming of our kids?
Well, I think in this specific case, and I don't have any, hard empirical evidence to back up this next statement, but I feel like in this specific case, somebody at MIT looked at what they were doing with affirmative action in colleges and different stuff like that and said, oh, we can fix that then. You know what I mean? Because I had an opportunity to speak on MIT's campus and in their Lincoln laboratory, actually literally the year COVID hit, right before COVID hit in March of 2020. And the vibe was not one of exclusion. It was a very, very inclusive vibe that I got, a very warm reception that I got there from everybody I met and spoke to. Very diverse. I mean, I didn't see a lot of people of color necessarily, but there were people from all over the world that went to that school. So I feel like they would be innovative enough, and their alumni would feel some kind of way enough about the fact that these protections were being removed and restricted and things like that, to put something like this in place to ensure that people
they not like us.
Yeah. Because in the article, let me just read this real quick. The article also said, unlike most colleges, MIT does not expect students on aid to take loans, and the institution does not provide, quote, an admissions advantage, end quote, to the children of alumni or donors, according to the release. So they're like, okay, you saying we can't, pick people who we want? I think this is their answer to that. If
we're
you're
gonna do the
telling
right
us,
thing because it's the right thing,
we're gonna do the right thing because it's the right thing, and we want to make sure we get the best students regardless. And if we can't do it by saying we're going, pull some people in who historically have been underserved, we just going to get rid of everything and make it a blank slate for everybody, and pay for people to come that aren't able to come. So, kudos to MIT for this. I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for students. And I hope, I see more of us take advantage of it.
My homegirl who did my first website went to MIT.
Okay.
I was excited to talk about this because I was excited about your excitement to talk about this, because I could be making this part up, but I think you said, ooh, I want to talk about this first thing when we get on the show next week. So we didn't put it first, but it is a wonderful thing, because no one can say, oh, well, you're doing something for them that you're not doing for anybody else. It's like, do your folks make less than $200,000 a year? Almost everyone's folks make less than $200,000 a year in the United States.
Somebody will find a reason to complain.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. But I'm just saying.
But it's not gonna hold water, and we gonna see what cream rises to the top in all of this. We gonna see. So we're gonna see.
Yeah, this was a really, really good story. I hadn't heard about it until you shine the light on it, Steph. So like I said, gotta give one to MIT on this one. Rest of y'all Ivy Leagues and Stanford,
just one. Exactly. They can't come to the cookout.
But you know what?
They still can't come to the cookout.
They want to start competing though. eventually. Well, some of these schools is we like it how it is. There's no question about that. But the other ones that actually want to compete are going to have to compete. So we'll see how we'll see how this goes.
Yep.
So this next story, y'all, is one that I titled, "I will take things that we will never happen for $200, Alex," because the DOJ wants to. They basically want Google. They have actually gone to a judge that is presiding over Google's antitrust case and said, "Yeah, we want Google to sell Chrome." Now, I'm going right off the rip. I'm going to tell you, I don't think that will ever happen. I don't think that can happen. I remember the stuff that Microsoft wasn't accused of doing, was actually convicted of doing when they wanted to break Microsoft up, and they didn't do that. And some of the stuff that Microsoft was doing was way more scandalous than what than what Google is doing. I, for the life of me, cannot see this happening. So just to read a little bit here, the U.S. Department of Justice has proposed sweeping changes to Google's business following a court ruling that found that the tech giant abused its dominance in online search and advertising. So they want to do things. The big one is, we want you to divest Chrome. Another big one is that they want default search restrictions, preventing Google from paying companies like Apple and others to make Chrome and to make Google search the default search engine on their platforms. That ain't happening either. And then one of the ones they thought was like, you might need to sell Android off. That actually could happen, but it's not the one that they're pushing hard for. So I kind of wanted, I don't know how much you guys looked into the story or how much you heard about it, but I just want to get your initial reactions. Do you see a world where Google does not own its own search engine? I'm sorry, does not own its own browser. Chrome has to go to someone.
but not for the reason. No, but not for the reasons you mentioned. I'm gonna read this a little bit longer. Although the case was originally brought by the Trump administration, the incoming president has made skeptical public comments about a breakup. Speaking at Bloomberg News event in October, Trump said splitting up Google might, quote, destroy the company, and that, quote, China is afraid of Google. However, Trump has also alleged that Google appeared to be promoting negative stories about him in his search results.
You
so
be making it up.
but people know that he just be making stuff up. So they're like, all right, let me get buddy with you with Trump, and let me say some nice things his way, so he can then turn right back around again, like you said, with no empirical evidence, change stuff. So I don't see this happening, because Google will figure out how to get buddy with Trump, and Trump will be like, yeah, I ain't.
And that's probably why he made that statement in the first place, because they probably donated to his campaign, and now he owes a favor to them and everybody else on the planet. I don't think it's going to happen, because I just think Google is too ubiquitous. Google's a whole verb. Like, that's how you explain how to look for something on the internet. Like, oh, just Google it. Just Google this. Like, it's literally a verb now. So the idea that you're going to remove that from human consciousness is just not gonna have, like, even when I'm in a different browser, I will sometimes still go to google.com to search for something, like in that browser. You know what I mean? I use Chrome, wherever I can use Chrome, but in Safari, Google is the default in Safari right now, so I'm using Google there as well.
The search is
for search, but it's so ubiquitous, though. I don't know that you're gonna be able to remove it from the public consciousness and convince people to stop using it. Now, I guess if you somehow manage to not make it force them to not have it be the default browser on different default search engine on different browsers, maybe people will be like, oh, they don't care, I'm just going to search I'm just going to use whatever's here. But you're not getting that, because you have to get them to stop doing it, and you have to get Apple and everybody else to stop taking the money.
Or not giving the money.
Right. Yeah, you got to stop. They're not going to stop taking the money, so you're not going to stop them from being the default search. That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I believe that they've got to, and I also believe that that's not going to work. But the way to fix it is to stop them from doing these under the table, underhanded deals, like with Apple, like with all these other companies. Like, nope, Apple cannot pay Google billions of dollars to be the default search for iPhones.
Vice
You
versa, actually.
get rid
Google
of
cannot
that,
pay Apple to be that.
or
Yeah.
whatever, vice versa.
The money can't change hands.
Right.
And
It
that's
needs to
not
be
happening.
it needs to be a truly competition driven thing, to where if DuckDuckGo can rise up, if Opera browser can rise up, if
If Bing
Firefox and Bing can rise up, then maybe there's some competition. But it is virtually impossible, because these deals and these arrangements and agreements that Google has with some of these companies, and then if you add in the ads, to where, you just as a business owner saying, all right, I'm gonna advertise on DuckDuckGo. You ain't advertising to nobody, Jack, versus saying I need to get on Google and use AdSense or whatever Google's calling it now. It needs to be to where I, as a business owner or user, somebody who wants to take advantage of Chrome, says, okay, they're just equal, or not equal, there are competitive options versus having to go to Google. If the state can figure out that, they don't necessarily have to get rid of Chrome. They don't have to make Google get rid of Chrome.
And here's, being serious, why I don't see this happening. Because when you think about Chrome and search, that is Google. That is Google's core business. I said that you could potentially see Google being told and being forced, if things really went bad for them, you must spin out Android. That's something separate, because Android could go and run as its own company, but they're talking about that Chrome by itself would be $22 to $27 billion to acquire it. That means that the companies that could acquire it are named Amazon and Microsoft.
And so that just makes you just transfer the monopoly
from one company
to
you
the
literally
other.
go from Google to much bigger companies. And Amazon and Microsoft now being monopolistic in, well, they own the browser space. So
Right.
I just don't see that happening, because it is their core business. Like I said, if they were told you need to spin out Google Workspace, that could happen. Because does Google pay?
Well, Google would gladly
They
give that up,
gladly would.
because they ain't
Okay,
making no
well, let's
money
go with
off of.
Android.
But
They would not
They
gladly
need to
give.
spin off
They will
Meet
fight
and get
forever to
rid of
keep
that.
hold of Android. But I could see an Android existing outside of a company like Google, because Android by itself, as a phone operating system and a phone manufacturer, it could run independently of Google. They probably would have to buy a whole lot of services from companies like Google, but then of course they could buy them from other companies as well. But I just don't see how you would take their core business of search and the browser that you do the searches in and separate that from the company. I've heard some people say, oh, well, you could have other browsers do it. There's no other browser. They've got 67%
Not
of
gonna
the
happen.
market. There's no other browsers that exist that are going to do what Chrome is going to do without adversely affecting Google, as a company, which I guess in some fraction, that's what you want to do, because they have been found to be a monopolistic company. I just don't see that happening. And then there's all this stuff about, Google just had a meeting with the president-elect and Elon Musk. They ain't talking about breaking that company up. They're talking about, how can we make all the money? That's what that conversation was about.
How can we get
How
our
can
cut,
we make all the money?
basically?
How can we
we
stick
want
it to
our cut.
China? How can we make all the money? That's what that
And that's
conversation
it.
was.
That somebody just got some time on their hands and wants to chase this windmill, but nah.
So no,
Nah, son.
I don't see that happening. And I do understand those who want something to happen, because you're talking about a company that is worth it has so much money that a fine really doesn't do anything. And there's some truth to that. A fine is not going to affect Google, because they have so much money. They will just pass that fine on to their customers. Those ad clicks cost a little bit more now. So, so that's not going to really adversely affect them. But I think,
yeah, but at the same time, I don't want it to go away just because Google's too big to fail, right? Because they are participating in some unlawful behavior and so on and so forth. So definitely go after them. but Chrome may not be
That's
the
not
best
the best play.
move.
I think it's going to
Right.
be
Right.
That's all of Google's
deals.
business.
Pick your battle.
That one
It's
is not
like
going to be the
your
one.
battle.
But I guess if you go in
Yeah.
front of the judge, you ask for, let's ask for the universe and see what we get. Maybe it could be one of those type of moves, because what I can see happening is that, you can no longer give Apple $2, $3, $4 billion a year to make your search engine be default on their phone. You can't do that with you can't do that with these other companies. You're going to have to compete with other, with other entities. There, even though there's really no other big search engine out there, Microsoft's Bing, Bing search is not it.
Anybody use
ChatGPT search is not bad. I can tell you right now, it is not bad. I get.
Yeah.
Now
Here's
the thing.
I could see them in competition.
I check it with Google to make sure that it's not bad.
Right.
Which is kind of the problem, but it is not bad. So I think that, you will see some additional competition coming into the space, if for no other reason that the way we search tomorrow may be different than the way we search today. And Google is not leading right now. Google is, Gemini is not as good as ChatGPT. It isn't. Not saying that it can't catch up, not saying that it won't be better one day, but it's not. And you don't have the CEO of Google talking about, just $7 trillion can, we need you to, companies of the world, we need about $7 trillion to go build these data centers. Google is not saying those kind of things with a straight face. Sam Altman in OpenAI is. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this stuff plays out.
Yeah.
So y'all, with it being the Monday or the Tuesday, depending on when folks are listening to this show, before Thanksgiving, which means the Black Friday is coming up, I thought it would be cool for us to go through some Black Friday picks, some tech picks. I don't know if you guys have been, if there's anything you have on your wish list, but there are a few things that kind of, stood out to me as far as just some things that are going to be available, or if they're not already available here in the coming, few days. So the first one, I'll go first here, is that the Amazon Fire Stick 4K. This thing is 56% off on Amazon, of course, for $21.99. That is not bad. That is.
And are you sure Amazon ain't doing the age old run up the price and then slash the price to make you think that you're getting a deal? I saw a meme today to where they had what was the movie Ironheart? Is it Ironheart with Mel Gibson? Paints his face. What's the name?
It's Iron something. I don't know if it was
Braveheart.
Iron.
So there's a meme.
Braveheart.
Yeah. So there's a meme to where he's looking at a grill, and a grill is $8.99, and on the side he's like, hold. And then on the next date is $8.99. He's like, hold. And then on Black Friday, it's $10.99 slash through to $8.99. He's like,
I don't think this is that. It's 56% off. So I don't know what it costs. I think I want to say I've seen it before for like $39.99. That might have been one of the Prime Day deals or something that I've seen before. This is not bad. Mm-hmm. This is $22 for a 4K Fire Stick, with a remote. Mm-hmm. So for me, here is the thought. I have an old TV that's not a smart TV that I lost a remote for. It makes more sense for me to just buy this thing and put it in it than it does to buy a replacement remote. It's that inexpensive. So that was the one for me. And here's another good one. I don't know if either of you pay any attention to Peacock, if you watch anything on Peacock or not, but Peacock has.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I'm getting it. I want to get into Bel Air one of these days.
Peacock, now's the time to do it, because Peacock, you can get it for an entire year for $20. It's $19.99 if you sign up now for an entire year, or if you don't want it for a year, you only want it for 6 months, it's $1.99 a month for 6 months. And that is ridiculous savings, because I think that I'm actually checking to see the account that we have is under my wife. I'm wondering, can I cancel her account and then sign up under my name and get the new price? Because I don't care about like all of my, all my profile and all that kind of stuff. I will rebuild that, but I think we're paying like $60 a year for it now. So, which doesn't sound like
that's not a lot, but it's just
like $5.99 a month or something like that. I mean, it adds up after a while. Yeah. So
it really does. Good grief.
But like, what's better than $5.99 a month? $199 a month. So
Mhm.
or $20 for the year, 20, $22 for the year. So I want to check to
I
see if
feel
we can
like
do it.
I don't know if there's enough on Peacock to make me. I mean, I gotta see if my brother's account's still active. Because I did have a little hookup on that, but I don't think there's enough content there that I want. I mean, I did love Bel Air. I didn't get a chance to see the second season or third season or whatever season they're in, but that's not enough to make me pay for that. Even 20,
So
maybe $20, and then if I could remember to cancel it at the end of the year or something like that, but we'll see. I
I
don't know.
am what's called a serial churner. They have come up with a name for us. So I don't go to like Apple TV or go to Prime and sign up all my subscriptions through the one place. I have individual apps on my phone where I sign up everything. And the reason I do that is because if there's nothing I'm watching, it's so easy to cancel. So Peacock is one of the ones that I think I've canceled Peacock twice, but I always sign back up with the same account. And I don't think you can cancel and go into this lower price deal. So that's why I know that it's my wife's account. So we'll see if I can do it with my account. I have to see if they look at your home to determine that.
Yeah.
So if I can do it, I might go ahead and do it. But I just thought, like, I am a streaming TV junkie. So to get a Fire Stick and to turn around and get Peacock for that inexpensive, because it also has live sports on it, that is not bad. So that's my Black Friday
Yeah.
deals.
True. I put the Samsung in there, the 85-inch QLED 4K TV, 1740. It's such a good deal. 1749. It's normally a $4,000 TV, so it's like less than half price. I've been doing a bunch of Black Friday segments, and I put this in there every single time because I just think it's such a good deal and such a good TV. So if I had the space in my own house to support an 85-inch television, I might be picking this one up.
If that's an
All
OLED,
right.
your boy would have to go potentially make a purchase.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of 55 inches, and man, these TVs are so old, but they're decent. They're like 1080p. They get the job done. I paid little to nothing, but my wall, I've got one in my family room, and it's a 55 inch, and it sits on a pretty much empty wall. And it's like, man, I need a bigger TV to fill that wall, just to fill that wall.
Right. This might be the one. And also, I didn't throw it in there, but if anybody is looking for a Vitamix, I bought a Vitamix back in the summer. Changed my whole smoothie game completely.
Oh, it's like that?
It's a really, really good blender, but they are expensive. But they're
Really?
gonna have those on QVC over on Black Friday for like $239, which is a really, really good price for one
Are
of
you doing?
those. Like they're normally,
I was gonna say,
huh?
are you doing any QVC stuff this year?
No, no, I won't be doing any content for them. I need to reach out though. Maybe I should. But I don't have any content planned, but I did run across that Vitamix price, and I was like, that's a good price for Vitamix. So
Did I tell you this story? I think this is the first year we was doing the show, and you were doing something for somebody. I can't remember what company it was, but I'm like, "Oh,
probably was
QVC."
QVC.
My wife is talking to the TV. He's like, "Yeah, girl, that's the one I want." And it's like, "Who are you talking to?" It's like, "My best friend Steph." I'm like, "Who?" It's like, Steph from the show. And then I would look, it's like, "Oh yeah, that's Steph from the show." So it's like, yeah, she was literally talking to you through the TV because you were telling her about something that she ended up buying from QVC.
You're welcome.
So I put a late edition Roomba robot. My daughter just told me that our little El Cheapo no name robot don't pick up nothing no more. So just coincidentally was looking around for Black Friday stuff. So I saw this Roomba robot. It's the one that's got the bin that automatically empties it out. Works with Alexa. So if you've got Alexa, you can say, "Hey Roomba, clean up the kitchen floor," or something like that. Empties itself up to 60 days, because that's my beef. Our little robot we've got now, it's like every 2 or 3 trips it's got to make. I got to go clean out the dustbin, but this has got the automatic thing. It automatically empties it out. So, and this one looks like, again, I ain't got no data to see how much it was before, but this one is 46% off. And it's for sale for $299, which regularly, according to the list price, is $549. So it's almost half off. So I may jump on that again. I'm gonna do the research, make sure.
Well, vacuum cleaners,
$299 is the actual
vacuum
price.
cleaners are one of the things they say you should buy over Black Friday. I know I've seen a couple Dysons for like half on, and those are like $700 vacuum cleaners, and they've been like under 300. So this, if you're looking for a vacuum cleaner, this is a good time to get one.
Yeah, we have a brand new.
The one I got now, I gotta watch it, because I'll watch it, it'll work fine. Soon as I walk off, thing is stuck under the couch. So I gotta go fish it out under the couch.
So what I've learned is that you can't just leave your shoes anywhere. They just struggle. They struggle with shoes. So you know, because like even though it could push the shoe out the way if it needed to, they won't. They're going to work around it. So it's like.
And it is a hassle, man. I will say, just in general, like when I say, all right, I'm gonna turn the vacuum on tonight, I gotta move the trash can, then I gotta roll up my little carpet that's in front of our patio door, and then I gotta push my office
you
chair
just
in.
vacuumed.
By then,
with a regular vacuum,
right? I could have just moved the stuff out there and swept with the dustpan.
Right.
So that I will say, you know, it's not as thought. What's the word? A second thought as you you just can't run it and it just do its job. You do got to look around. Like my son, he's 8 or 7, and he's not quite tall enough, so we catch him on the counter, climbing up on the counter to climb up in the cabinet to get a cup. So we like, all right, we're gonna get you a step stool. So he's got a little step stool in the kitchen to where he can step up on that, get his cereal, get his drinks or whatever. But when you go to run the robot, I gotta go move that thing out the way. Because
same thing. My wife has a step stool. Exact same thing. It's this is what it almost reminds me of. It's like for those who are fortunate enough to actually have a housekeeper or a cleaning person or something like that, you got to clean the house up before they come and clean the house up. And that's what it is with the Roomba. You gotta straighten up. And I need to vacuum this junk before I had this thing vacuumed. So yeah.
And then our room was so janky, I gotta with my foot slide the dirt into the middle of the floor so it could then run up.
Yeah,
I gotta go around.
You need a new one. Go ahead on and make
buddy.
that and make that purchase. Yes, right. Please. That's crazy.
Yeah, I slide my dirty socks on the edge of the floor.
You be doing the Tom Cruise dance in your underwear, sliding through the house before you. But Tech Life Steph, we have a spotlight this week. So can you tell us about Eniola Shokunbi?
Yes.
Is she 11 years old?
She's
12 years old, about to take the world over?
About to take over the world. So Eniola Shokunbi, a 12-year-old middle school student from Connecticut, has launched an ambitious project to improve the air quality in U.S. schools. The Connecticut State Bond Commission approved $11.5 million in funding for the initiative to create low-cost classroom air filters. The project was conceived when Shokunbi, then a 5th grader at Commodore McDonough STEM Academy in Middletown, was tasked with creating a solution to enhance school safety during potential future pandemics. She was motivated by better air quality to combat airborne viruses like COVID-19 and developed a simple yet effective air filter system. The air filter's design combines creativity with affordability. It is made from a straightforward mix of materials: a box fan, 4 furnace filters, duct tape, and cardboard. This clever setup keeps production costs around just $60 per unit, offering a highly budget-friendly option compared to commercial air purifiers. She describes the system's functionality as follows. The air goes through all the sides and it comes out of the top, so it filters in and out. This straightforward yet effective design demonstrates how simplicity can often lead to powerful solutions to complex problems like indoor air quality. End quote. Shokunbi's design underwent rigorous testing with support from the scientists at the University of Connecticut, UConn. The Environmental Protection Agency also confirmed that the device effectively eliminates over 99% of airborne viruses, showcasing its potential to significantly improve classroom safety. The State Bond Commission's recent approval allocates $11.5 million to implement these air filters in Connecticut schools. This funding is part of UConn's Safe CT, Supplemental Air Filtration for Education program, which aims to ensure that every public school classroom can access these vital air purification systems. Shokunbi's vision extends beyond Connecticut. She aspires to see her air filters implemented in classrooms nationwide. A lot of people don't realize that the only thing standing between them and getting sick is science, she stated, emphasizing the importance of investing in scientific solutions for children's health. Connecticut State Senator Matt Lessner commended Shokunbi's initiative, calling her fabulous and noting her ability to inspire those around her. The project addresses immediate health concerns and serves as an educational tool for students about the importance of indoor air quality. As Eniola Shokunbi continues her journey in sixth grade, she remains committed to advocating for healthier school environments and hopes to inspire future innovators. Her story shows that innovation and creativity know no age or grade and exemplifies how even young minds can lead significant change within their communities and beyond.
Got to give her shine. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. And here's the other thing I'm thinking about. We've had two people, one on the show, one that we're now talking about on the show, that are Black women who have gotten funding. Something that never happens. $11.5 million to a 12-year-old.
Well, I would be curious to know if she is actually going to see any of that money. Like the project has gotten funded to put these into schools, but I haven't seen, because I've seen a few different stories, shouting this out as it should be promoted, but none of them have indicated whether or not she will directly benefit from any of that funding and will receive any actual money. So I'll be curious to
dope,
see
though.
if anybody followed. No, it's super dope. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like,
absolutely. She's
and I'm
brilliant.
pretty sure, well, I'm hoping her parents, or her caregivers, guardians, I don't want to label nobody, but her guardians set it up to where she does seem some sort of monetary kickback from this. I don't want to call it kickback.
This is her IP.
Yeah, she's getting something now, getting 10 million, and then trying to figure out how to run the whole project off of 1 million. Probably not, but I'm pretty sure they figured out how to get her some college money. Now that
something,
MIT is letting people in for free, she may get fast track for that, and then I had to pay for it out of her project money. So congrats to her.
Yeah,
that is so awesome.
Paid a little sister.
I'm just thinking, when I was 12 years old, I was the kind of physics projects I was doing was basically building ramps to jump my BMX, my Huffy Bandit over a ramp.
Me and my brother was shoveling snow to save up money to buy a Nintendo Entertainment System.
Oh, how that was.
I don't know. Was I working at 12? I mean, I don't think I was doing much of nothing at 12.
Yeah, this is.
When did I do that? I did write a computer program in elementary school. Like it might have been middle school though, or high school. I don't know. I don't think I was doing much at 12 though.
Yeah, 12.
Oh, yeah, we wasn't
doing a whole lot at 12.
We was po-po. We had to get out there
in the street.
We had to get out there. We had to get out there. You got to get out there, Jack.
Yeah.
You ain't getting no school clothes for summertime.
All right, y'all. We can go ahead and wrap this episode of the Tech Jawn up. Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, or check out my website at stephaniehumphrey.com.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I am at all things Robb Dunewood, and we're also at all things the Tech Jawn, at the Tech Jawn. So come holler at us however you holler, and until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.
Peace.